Well, I'm delighted to say that we're now joined by Tom Laird, the leader of the Scottish Libertarian Party. How do you think you could sort of change that mentality? And I know you said that you'd see independence being a sort of grassroots thing, which goes upwards and what have you. And by the time of independence, everybody be a bit independent themselves. But let's just assume that independence occurred and the Libertarians came to power shortly thereafter. How would you go about, from a sort of running the finances of Scotland, on day one?
Well, thankfully, that's something I don't know anything about. So hopefully it's not going to have to be me that does it. And let's face it, in order for the Libertarian Party to get elected in Scotland with any kind of majority, I mean, at the end of the day, because this is what you're asking, you say, what would you do if you had an absolute majority and you could do anything you want? Well, assuming we got to that level, then there would have to be some sort of appeal in our policies to the population at large. So I think if we ever got to the day where the Scottish electorate returned a majority of Libertarian candidates, I think people would already, something would have already shifted there in the psyche nationally in order for people to start doing that. There would have been, they've came to some realization that government control and mass spending and taxation are not the answer. I think even for to get to the stage where we've got a majority Libertarian representation in the Scottish Parliament, then something's changed. So it's getting there. That's the issue, and it's an uphill struggle here in Scotland, as I'm sure it is many places in England as well. But it's an uphill struggle to even get people to the stage where they're going to vote for a libertarian regime, if you could call it that. But I'm partly to blame, so it's my mess and I have to try and clean it up.
Away from some of the policies, you've been on GB News.
Yeah.
How was that? And more broadly, how do you find dealing with the media?
All credit to GB News. And by the way, it's a mystery. I mean, I think some of our guys, Jonathan Rainey, one of our candidates, I know he contacted them. But I still don't know how I got on there. But I've been asked on. And all credit and thanks to GB News, because other than that, we couldn't get arrested. Literally, we tried. And even within the so-called libertarian press, other than your good selves.
You mentioned this earlier about running candidates. You've been really good at that. And that's not always true of some of the smaller parties. So that's fantastic. What's been the secret of your success of getting candidates out there, and how do they get involved if they want to?
Well, it's good of you to say so, but I mean, there's probably quite a few people in the party. In fact, we've recently we had a party member who departed from us because they didn't think that we were doing it properly, the whole candidates thing. We should have had more candidates. It's a difficult one. But look, when it comes to council elections, those are the ones that are relatively easy because it costs you nothing. It costs not penny one to actually put the candidates up. So it's a good way of getting your name out there. So we were always keen to do that. That was always a strategy for us to get as many as we possibly could on those elections. In terms of the Scottish elections, that was a long time building up till we got to the stage we got the amount of candidates that we did in the Scottish parliamentary elections. But I think for a small party our size, we do punch above our weight, and I think we have done reasonably well for under anybody's point of view. When you actually look at we don't have any money that we have comes from our members. We don't have. This is what always cracks me up when people dismiss libertarianism as some sort of corporate creed. You go, well, really? Where's my check from Halliburton?
Yeah.
Where are all these checks rolling in from the corporations? It just doesn't happen. So we struggle for funding. But the greatest resource that we struggle for is activists. That's the most difficult part. We've got a small core of activists, no more than 20, who really do everything, and it's a strain. A lot of people burn out. A lot of people get disillusioned, It's just a matter of focusing on what you want as a party and what you want to achieve. So I think for us as a small party, I think I can't thank enough the people around me. The treasurer is very important. You don't have a good treasurer, you don't have a treasurer, you're really struggling. So our treasurer, Liam Harkness, has been instrumental. Our membership secretary, there's a team there that put a lot of time in and a lot of effort, and that's a requirement. Without that, you're going nowhere. And it's a thankless task. Nobody gets paid, We're all doing it at our own time. It costs us money to do it, but we all believe in what we're doing. So that's really what helps. Having a good team of committed activists. But we're starved of activists. It's really hard to find people who are committed to put the time and effort required in to make the party go forward. So it's a situation of sort of, 3 steps forward, 1 back. But I'm happy with that because you can overstretch yourself. I think we could have fielded possibly 10 more candidates at the last council elections. But there's the admin side of things. You've got to keep on top of that. You've got to keep in contact with them. And then after it, you've got to chase them up for putting in, even if they haven't spent anything expenses wise, you have to chase them up to get their expenses forms in, because that could be another trap that you fall into. Admin wise, if you don't keep on top of things, you can lose a lot of money and you can't afford to do that as a small party. So it's really just keeping things in check and not overstretching ourselves. I think that's basically it. There's no more magic to it than that. And if people want to get involved, they can go online to www.scottishlibertarians.com. We're also on Twitter at School Libertarian. If you go either two of those websites and follow the arrows, that should let you know how to get involved and what to do if you want to be a candidate. We're looking for people who would be interested. We're not sure how many candidates or if at all we're going to put up in the UK elections. So for the Westminster parliamentary elections, but would be good to put up maybe at least half a dozen high quality candidates in key seats where we think we might get some publicity out of it. But it's difficult.